Hello, everyone, and welcome to our sharing session on implementation of the CEFR-aligned English Language Curriculum, the journey so far and the road ahead. My name is Ramesh Nair, and I am a member of the English Language Standards and Quality Council, Ministry of Education, Malaysia. Joining me today are Professor Dr. Hazita Azman, the Chair of the English Language Standards and Quality Council, and Dean at the Faculty of Social Sciences and Humanities, Universiti Kebangsaan, Malaysia, and Puan Sarina Salim, the Deputy Director of the Languages and Literature Sector, Curriculum Development Division, Ministry of Education. Welcome, Prof. and Puan Sarina.
Thank you, Dr. Ramesh.
Thank you, Dr. Ramesh.
So, as the title suggests, Prof, maybe I should forward the first question to you. Before we talk about the curriculum itself, let's try and locate the curriculum against the larger picture of reform in English language education. Can you briefly take us through the rationale for aligning the English language curriculum to the CEFR in particular, and the process of that implementation?
Right. Thank you, Dr. Ramesh, and good afternoon to all. That's a two-part question. I will answer the first one, as in why CFR. Well, the decision by the Ministry of Education to adopt the CFR and have our English language curriculum aligned to the CFR in 2013 is actually an obvious decision because there is an urgent need to enable our Malaysian students to develop the knowledge and skills to become global citizens of the 21st century. Yeah, because we know that the trade, commerce, as well as research advances in science and technology are mostly communicated in the English language itself. And CFR, because it represents an international standard for describing and measuring language proficiency, at each stage of education, that means from preschool to tertiary level, and is also recognized globally. So it helps place our students' proficiency in terms of gauging their proficiency at the international level. You know, so there's no more question about SPM is equivalent to what, for example, SPM English. So it helps in a sense that we have now adopted an international standard curriculum. And Malaysia, in fact, is actually rather late in joining this global trend because previously countries like Japan, China, Vietnam has already adopted the CFR. But yeah, at least we are already starting in that journey. And to your second part of the question, which is the process, the process of implementation. In adopting the CFR for our English language education in Malaysia, it required a major reform, as we all know, which actually needed, because this reform needed an integrated, comprehensive, systematic, and timetable plan of implementation, to ensure its success. So to this end, the Ministry of Education had launched the English language education reform in Malaysia, or the roadmap, which is this is the one, the roadmap 2015 to 2025, or simply known as the roadmap. So this roadmap takes a cohesive approach where the English language curriculum, the teaching of it, the learning processes, the assessment, and the material selections, as well as teacher training, are integrated and comprehensively addressed. Yeah, and the roadmap also describes in detail what must be done to improve teaching and learning at preschool, primary, secondary, post-secondary, and even tertiary levels, as well as teacher education. So it's a very comprehensive roadmap, which is a 10-year plan. And it's also, what is unique about this is that it's not developed just out of ideas, but it's actually evidence-based. right? Whereby we identify gaps, language learning needs of not only the students but also the teachers. Yeah. So, and the alignment, the curriculum alignment. If you look at this, I think the next slide. The curriculum alignment here, as you can see, in terms of its plan, yeah? We started in 2016, and its implementation is started in 2018, actually, with year 1, Form 1, Form 2, Standard 1 and Standard 2 levels. Yeah, and at the same time, we also embark on training of the teachers, yeah, which started in 2017. So you can see as the plan unfolds, the development of the teachers' familiarization of CFR was first emphasized, yeah, before they get into the classroom. So with the cascade training model, the Ministry of Education managed to train 61,000 English language teachers by 2020. Which is quite an impressive feat itself. And at the same time, they had undergone training modules, which were segmented modules, which covered not only the familiarization, yeah, but it's also looking at learning materials, evaluation, adaptation of materials, which should train the teachers as to how to adapt materials to be for the students' needs, as well as to be in compliance with the CFR standards. We also had the curriculum induction as well as item writing training that's to cover assessment. Yeah. So at the same time, where assessment is concerned, there is also emphasis on formative assessment. So there were a lot of changes that was brought about with this new curriculum, but the changes were done systematically. And what is also important to point out here is that between 2016 and 2020, and even now up to 2022, as the roadmap plans out to 2025, yeah, there is a close monitoring and continuous monitoring by a group of regulating bodies. Somewhat, I would use the word regulating, because they are monitoring and evaluating. Yeah, and one of the bodies is, of course, the English Language Quality and Standards Council, which is the ELSQC. And we work together closely with ELTC, of course, the English Language Teaching Center as the secretariat, and also the curriculum department, yeah, the Curriculum Development Division, or the BPK, the Examination Syndicate, and as well as the inspectorates, the Jemaah Nazir, bahagian perguruan, BPG. We've also had sharing of sessions with matriculation. So it's a very comprehensive collaboration, and the sharing is very important, and it's shared in a platform where everybody has this common knowledge of what's going on, so that there will be regulated monitoring. So I think this continuous collaboration is very important for the roadmap to be successful, and for us to be able to measure the impact of this change in the curriculum. And more importantly is actually this whole exercise is the feedback that we get from the teachers. So systematic feedback that we get from the teachers as well as the students themselves, yeah, in terms of sampling and so forth, will actually make CFR, this CFR-aligned curriculum, very much practice-based. Yeah, and that is the uniqueness out of this whole implementation, Dr. Ramesh.
Thank you, Prof. I think the main point that I've taken from what you've described so far is that this is, as you point out, comprehensive. It's also holistic. It's a journey with the awareness that reforms in language education cannot just entail curriculum changes in primary and secondary school, but it really begins from preschool right up to university. And that's the context in which we are moving ahead. So on that point, upon Sarina, the aspirations of the roadmap essentially is that students become proficient in English, that we do not face the issues that we have been facing for the past few decades, and for this roadmap to be realized, the aspirations need to be translated into action. And I think that's where the curriculum documents come into play, and we are hoping that these documents, once it reaches our teachers, will then translate into tangible outputs in the language classroom. So can you just talk to us a little bit about the CEFR-aligned English Language Curriculum?
Okay, thank you, Dr. Ramesh, and good afternoon to all watching. As we are aware, in Malaysia, English is taught as a second language, right? However, the reality on the ground is that our students may be studying it as a third language, or in some cases, even a foreign language, due to the diversity in our country. Due to this, there are many challenges faced by our teachers as well as our students. This is why, as Prof. Hazita has clearly stated, Malaysia embarked on producing a roadmap, and we have chosen the Common European Framework of References for Languages, or better known as the CFR, to align our curriculum too, right? So we are hoping with this CFR-aligned curriculum, we are providing teachers as well as our students very specific skills-based targets. Okay. The MOE has prepared many documents to support the teachers, right? As what you have asked, Dr. Ramesh, what is the MOE doing in order to ensure that the CFR is realized in the classroom? So teachers are equipped with the standards-based curriculum and assessment document. Most of the teachers will know it as the DSKP. They also have the curriculum framework for preschool, primary, and secondary. And another document is the schemes of work, which really help and assist teachers right down to what a lesson might look like using the CFR-aligned curriculum. And last but not least are the CFR-aligned textbooks. Okay, so with these documents in hand, we are hoping that they will guide the teachers to be able to translate the curriculum framework, the content and learning standards for primary and secondary into the classroom. The learning standards show progression, right? Yes, you can see on the screen, it shows progression. You can see, for example, here, listening, what's the focus? So at the end of year one, right? At the end of year one, students are still working towards A1. Okay. At the end of year two, they should be at A1 low, right? And right through to year 6. So the skills are stated in a progressive manner, right? To make it easier for teachers to track and help and support the child to be where they should be in that skill. Okay, and as we go along, you can see that it becomes more complex and there's more depth to it. Okay, that is for the curriculum framework and the learning standards. In the DSKP, it focuses on the 4 main language skills: listening, speaking, reading, and writing, as well as language awareness. So for primary, we have the language arts. And for secondary, we have literature in action. And all these are given due focus during the teaching and learning process. So Dr. Ramesh, as you can see, support is given by the MOE for the teachers to be able to bring to life the CEFR-aligned curriculum.
Okay, and on that point, Puan Sarina, so the documents are prepared. There's a lot of thought that has gone into the preparation of the content of the curriculum documents. But it's not just a matter of preparing these documents and handing it over to teachers to interpret and to carry out lessons. There must be more in this journey of implementation. Can you take us through that process of how the curriculum, the new, the CEFR-aligned curriculum is implemented in our schools?
Okay, picking up from what Prof. Hazita mentioned earlier, from 2016 to 2020, the MOE worked closely with Cambridge English and of course with other relevant divisions in the Ministry of Education. As pointed out, there has to be that constant sharing with all the divisions in the Ministry of Education in order to realize what's in the roadmap. So when we worked closely with Cambridge English, part of the collaboration is to provide training to our teachers. First and foremost, there was training on familiarizing our teachers to the CEFR. What is the CEFR, right? Why the CEFR? The CEFR was first mentioned in the Malaysian Education Blueprint, right? And it was picked up by the English Language Standards and Quality Council when the roadmap was produced. So a lot of, as Prof. Hazita mentioned as well, a lot of research, a lot of data, a lot of information was gathered before the roadmap was produced. So from familiarizing the teachers to the CEFR, teachers will also then progress to the curriculum induction. Once the CEFR-aligned curriculum was ready, the teachers were then trained to understand how the CEFR is translated into the curriculum, right? What it looked like, what can teachers do? Besides the curriculum induction, teachers were also trained on formative assessment. How do you identify, okay, for primary, let's say a child is at A1, you want to bring up the child to A1, right? What do you look out for? What advises the teacher that the student needs to be trained a bit more in speaking, in pronouncing, right? Pronouncing words properly before they can get to A1. So formative assessment training allowed teachers to understand this better. We also had training on materials, evaluation, adaptation, and design. Of course, there are all sorts of materials available now, right? But how do you choose, how do you adopt, and how do you adapt materials that are available to make it relevant to the level of the student, right? So during the training, teachers were taught to identify what level of material they picked up from, let's say, the internet would be, let's say it's at B1. So teachers were taught how to bring it down to A2, for example, if they are teaching at that level, or to take it up, right? So that was what the material adaptation training was about. Then teachers were also trained on assessment, evaluation, item building, some teachers, right? And it was all about capacity building. So the collaboration between MOE and Cambridge English was to prepare our teachers on putting into practice the CEFR-aligned curriculum. So they were equipped, well equipped, I would say. And on top of that, CEFR-aligned textbooks were provided. So if teachers couldn't get materials from the internet, they already had that textbook which was suited at that level. Okay. So our learners, on the other hand, were given a different experience, because if we look at the CEFR-aligned curriculum, it's very student-centered. Okay? Students, the activities are getting students to be fully engaged in language activities. There was a lot of differentiation strategies. There were lessons were very language skills focused. Okay. Project-based learning was also another approach that was very stressed upon, and the use of ICT. Of course, we have like the YouTube and other social applications that came into play. So all these were part and parcel of the collaboration to prepare teachers to then to execute the CEFR-aligned curriculum. So that was the process we went through, Dr. Amish.
Right. Thank you, Konsaina. And both you and Prof. Hazita draw attention to the in-service training of the teachers, right? Through the 4 workshops that you referred to just now, the familiarization to the CFR, curriculum induction, formative assessments, materials adaptation. So these were, the core training sessions that were offered to the teachers, and obviously they are central to the success of the implementation. But as a teacher myself, I'm sure that you attend a training session. There's only so much you can take in, right? There you might go back and then think to yourself, am I doing it right, or have I missed something? So if I were to ask you, are there opportunities for teachers to revisit the content of what was delivered in these workshops, the first workshops they attended? If I'm a teacher who wanted to revisit the topics, how do I go about doing that?
Okay, we have master trainers available. Okay, we have master trainers in every state. In most cases, we also have them in every district. And actually part of the training was that we requested at least one teacher from every school. So that resource person is available. And now with the current system, we also have our SIC Plus who can be of help.
Okay, so teachers still have access to training input, right?
Yeah, and
Yes,
if I could also add to that, I think the ELTC also has a very good website where they have compiled, all the different training sessions held, as well as additional exposure to other ways of teaching, which is aligned to the CFR. So they've got a very good resource there as well. It's a matter of just letting the teachers know that the resources are there, and they accessing it. Yeah.
Yes.
Because I'm sure. Go ahead.
In addition, Dr. Amish, a lot of states, the English language officers in the states, they themselves have also come up with refresher courses with regards to the CFR. So states are also taking the initiative to ensure the in-service teachers are updated, and the teachers who are coming out, our fresh teachers, our new graduates, IPGM, our teacher training body, are already preparing them. So I think in the long run, everybody should be helping each other, reminding each other. Yeah.
Yes.
I think that's an important message there, because your frame of reference changes, when you attend a training program and then coming in and then going back to classrooms and actually putting it into action. That there may be a need to revisit the content of that training and see what works, and what can, maybe there have been success stories as well to be shared with the larger population of teachers. Of the 4 training programs, it's interesting that one of them was on formative assessments, right? it's difficult to talk about the implementation of the curriculum without touching on assessment, especially since the hope is that, I think one of the hopes of the implementation of the CEFR-aligned curriculum is to move away from that practice of teaching to the test. Again, Puan Sarina, can you briefly explain the role of assessments in the CEFR-aligned curriculum and how teachers need to assess the proficiency of learners?
Okay, thank you, Dr. Ramesh. For the in the curriculum, the DSKP, okay, it is Document Standard Curriculum dan Pentaksiran. So pentaksiran, the evaluation part, the assessment part is incorporated. Okay, in the DSKP, there are 6, as you can see on the screen, there are 6 performance levels. Okay, so they're known as tahap penguasaan, TP1, TP2, TP3 up to TP6, right? And there are descriptors for each skill. There are specific descriptors for each performance level. So these guide the teachers to place or to know where their students are at. TP3, the performance level 3, is where the students have achieved the minimum curriculum target. Okay, so if teachers can go further to TP4, 5, 6, even better, because we are aware that there are students who are more advanced. So that opportunity is also available. And it's very specific. I mean, like, as you can see on the screen, if TP3, a student can recognize and reproduce a wide range of target language phonemes with support. Okay, so that will be the spoken, yeah, for speaking skill, yeah. This is for listening skill, right? And this is for year 4. So this helps the students, it helps the teachers as well as the students actually. If we can show this to the students and say, all right, these are the things that you should be able to do in year 4, then I think with that awareness, that self-access learning can take place, right? Student-driven learning can take place. So I think those are the things that we need to sort of like focus on where assessment is concerned. And the whole idea of school assessment is that it is a process of collecting information about the pupil's progress. It is planned, it is implemented, and it's reported. So teachers have a reporting template. It's a continuous process which teachers do from the beginning. But where the MOE is concerned, we do request for teachers to fill up this template twice a year, right? Progressively, they can collect from the beginning, but for reporting purposes, it's twice a year. And if you look at the form, it is for every skill, right? So for teachers, they can identify that a student is at maybe 2 for listening, TP2 for listening, TP3 for speaking, TP3 for reading, and TP3 for writing, for example. These are individual skills, but at the end of the day, you will have one overall performance standard, right? And how does the teacher decide on this is based on their professional judgment, because they've been observing their students all year through, right? So that final mark, that final tahap penguasaan keseluruhan is based on the 4 skills as well as the teacher's professional judgment. Okay.
All right. So it really looks like we are returning to a focus on all 4 skills, right? And that's what we hope to see happen in our language classrooms. Prof. Hazita, with the implementation of a new curriculum, it is not without its challenges. Perhaps I could ask you, with this implementation of the CEFR-aligned curriculum, we're coming to the end of our year. I think this year we will see the primary 6 students beginning with the CEFR-aligned English Language Curriculum. What have the challenges been for the implementation of this curriculum?
Right. Thank you for that question, Dr. Ramesh. There are many challenges that has been brought to our attention as we shared information and feedback from the teachers and the students. But if I could categorize it into 3 major challenges, yeah. The first being that is with regards to the quality of English language teaching, as well as the quality of the English language teachers. Yeah, that remains a challenge, although we have put in place criteria, exiting criteria for proficiency, for example, yeah, in terms of the training colleges, as well as English language qualifications, yeah, for teachers who wants to practice in schools, and also the quality of teaching itself. Yeah, I mean, as Puan Sarina has pointed out, there's been they've gone through training through the cascading model, and there should be continuous development in terms of professional access to the to the latest ways of teaching and the technology and so forth. But at the end of the day, it's the quality that is actually in the hands of the teachers themselves in the classroom, right? So we hope that the teachers are would implement what's been trained, and also be open to being trained continuously. Yeah, it doesn't mean that you're not good enough. It actually means to further, what new ways can you apply? Because as the students in this 21st century era, their needs and their interests differs and are different from what we used to know, the conventional students that we used to be. So English language teachers should have 2 goals in their career aspirations. One is to continuously ensure that their proficiency is sustained, maintained. Yeah, because that is the crux of the matter. You are the model of the language actually in the classroom. Yeah, and try to model as best as you could in terms of the amount of English to be used, how it's to be used, the quality is to be used, because of given the fact that especially in the rural areas, the exposure to the language is very limited. The other is, of course, accepting the fact that you should upgrade yourself in terms of your knowledge about the teaching of the language, yeah, especially with all these new ways of doing things and using all these different techniques and tools and so forth. So continuous professional development is something that needs to be part and parcel of the culture, the English language teachers culture. Of course, this also requires not only the Ministry of Education in terms of supporting this financially, but also the school administrators with regards to allowing the space of time or sabbatical time, perhaps for these teachers to upgrade themselves so that they'll be always in touch with the current things, current ways of teaching effectively. Secondly, is with the language input itself, yeah, and we know we use in Malaysia, and our education system relies on textbooks, rely on curated materials, learning materials that's selected by either the Ministry of Education or by the schools and so forth. So for English language, it's important for us to develop a huge bank of good materials that has been carefully selected, which is not only for teaching in the classroom, but should be built for access by students to encourage independent learning outside of the classroom. Yeah, that is something that is important because we want to ensure that the students are exposed to as much language as possible. Yeah, something that is meaningful to them and they can use immediately, something that's relevant to them. So therefore the material should be of, address all the differences in terms of learning interests, language use and so forth. And it's important to create this ecosystem so that the students themselves become independent learners, yeah, outside. Because as you know, there's not enough time in the classroom for a student to gain 200 hours of English, for example, yeah. So we need to create a learning ecosystem where they can also be exposed and experience the language outside of the classroom. But but carefully choreographed, so to speak, yeah, carefully built, because we don't want them to come back talking, using all these slang words and so forth. But that is that won't be helpful in terms of their own, in terms of their proficiency so much. But this is something that needs to be developed, and it is still lacking. Yeah, and that's why the emphasis on teachers being apt at adapting materials is also important training that was provided. Yeah, and thirdly, I feel making learning English fun and engaging, yeah, is key also. Because this is research has shown that students' attitude towards English language is a major influencing factor in them accepting to learn the language. Yeah, so the effective filter there needs to be reduced, needs to be lowered, so that they are more acceptable to learning English itself without feeling stressed, without feeling embarrassed, or even antagonistic towards the language. So the materials itself needs to engage them, right? Needs to be relevant. There should be alternative ways of assessment, yeah, where the assessment is it's not stress. It's not something like they feel that they have to study for, and because the level of effectiveness will rise. The filter itself will rise when they're so afraid of the language. English language itself, for it to be sustainable, we need to make it purposeful, relevant to them, yeah, in terms of why they are learning the language. Why is it necessary in this global world? They need to learn the language, and that needs to be immediately informed to them. It has to be a close, something that's close to them, because at the moment now, many see English as being foreign. They see English being distant. It's something that they don't need immediately. So that gap, I think, can be bridged through the teaching itself and through the materials. Yeah.
Right. Thank you. If I can just recap the main points that you have highlighted in terms of challenges. First, you talk about the continuing professional development of teachers and how that is important, in ensuring that we succeed. You also talk about empowering the learner, making them as much as possible autonomous learners, taking control of their learning. And also, you talked about materials adaptation and making lessons fun and engaging. And I'm sure all teachers have share your vision for this as well, in ensuring that the lessons are fun and engaging. And I'm sure they have been facing quite a bit of challenges with the situation where we're in, and we're hoping things improve. Puan Sarina, maybe you could jump in as well here and share your thoughts about the challenges we face in this journey. What do you see as needing to happen for us to succeed?
Okay. I think with the formative assessment, right? Teachers should make full use of that, because that allows teachers to identify the learning strengths, the weaknesses, and also to measure the pupil's progress against the teaching and learning objectives. Okay, and these should serve as indicators to teachers on how to address the gaps in the learning process, right? Once teachers have done this, then as what Prof. Hazita said, then teachers look out for, okay, what would help this particular child be able to speak fluently, but in a fun manner. So this is where what materials the teacher uses can help. And as we know, there are many materials out there. The MOE has also, besides providing the textbooks, has also provided digital materials that are CEFR aligned. I mean, our younger teachers, like how we were saying, teachers should be forever progressive, improving themselves. I know of so many master trainers who were trained, who I think have accelerated, right? They themselves have embraced the CFR and created their own materials with the understanding they have of the CFR, and adapted it to suit their children. You know, what excites the students. Using technology, I think technology is a blessing in disguise now. Yes, you know, it has its pros and cons, but our teachers have actually taken that on to adapt materials and also to create digital challenges, which students nowadays are more into, right? I mean, they are very techno savvy, much more than we are.
Like game-based activities.
Yes, game-based. You know, even a simple thing like Kahoot, right?
Yes.
Never mind students, young kids. I think adults love Kahoot. You know, people get excited. It's competitive. It's fun. These are simple. Actually, it's a formative tool as well. You know, like what you've taught today, okay? And you just get kids to go on Kahoot and say, okay, name the part of the body or whatever. That's formative assessment digitally, right?
Yeah.
It's fun, it's new, it's fresh, and teachers create it themselves. So I think we are moving towards, like Prof said, you know, making English fun, making English purposeful, right? Why do you want to study English? Do you need to study English? Right?
And you draw attention to that an important point about assessments. It's assessments that helps you assess your teaching and how you can better facilitate learning amongst your students, rather than doing an assessment to label the child with a particular grade. And I would like to just highlight here, you know, that we are not alone in this move away from exams, right? I think there are other countries which are also doing this, doing away with even monthly tests and mid-semester exams and the likes, and really putting the focus back to teaching and getting the students to be proficient.
Yes, I mean, I think that's the way to go. You know, come back to the basics. Okay?
Yes.
Allow our teachers to focus on teaching and learning, right?
Yes.
Really identify what do the students need. Okay? Where are their gaps?
Yeah.
How can I help them?
The example you gave just now about some of our teachers who have developed some really good lessons, and I think Prof. Hazita talked about this as well just now. The importance of getting teachers to collaborate on what, now with the CFR, we're now talking about performance in more tangible terms, right? So if I talk about my students being at A2, I'm speaking to another teacher in another part of the country who's also got students at A2. So obviously, the material that person is using is going to be useful for me as well. And so, that platform is important for teachers to engage and share. And I think teachers are doing it already. I think they have lots of social media groups, WhatsApp groups where they communicate and share.
Yes, I mean, like, this is where I think with our master trainers, we have master trainers and we have our super master trainers. And these are people who can share, move, even at ground level. We don't have to wait for everything to come from top bottom.
Yes.
At the ground level, our teachers can they are already doing it actually.
That's right.
Time it's really catching up with us. Prof, as the title suggests, we're looking at the journey so far and the way forward. So we need to now come to this way forward, Prof. Where are we now, and what is the direction we're heading in?
Okay. The way forward is, of course, we need to see out the roadmap itself. Yeah, so towards 2025, we will be doing an evaluation or impact study of the curriculum that has been implemented, where we need to measure the extent to which the curriculum was effective. Yeah, what other gaps need to be addressed will also be identified. And out of that also, I think what we will get would be, we hope to get will be our version of the CFR, which is the CEFR-M, the Malaysian version of the CFR. And then which other countries, as I said before, has already arrived at, since like Japan, for example, since 2012, 2012, they've already got their own version of CEFR-J, Japan, which helps them to identify the standards that is appropriate for their needs, in terms of where English language is concerned. And we are moving away from what, if you remember in our syllabuses before, when they talk about the goal of learning English, it is near native-like. Even worse, before it was Queen's English. During my time, it was Queen's English. What does that mean? We don't know, right? And the other one was near native-like. What does that sound like, So, but now the description of the competency or the level that you are supposed to, that we aspire for any student of ours to reach is illustratively described. You can do this. At this level, you can do this. That means the responsibilities, of course, comes down to the teacher, to the curriculum, to the education system to ensure that they can write a report, for example. So basically, it's telling the students that you should be able to attain all these competencies at this level when you are exiting at year 4 or exiting at Form 5, So that is where we are heading towards. We are heading towards what we are calling as CEFR-M. It is not a new curriculum. It is not another curriculum, right? It is just a validation of the CEFR-aligned curriculum that is currently being implemented. So once we reach the end of the roadmap, we hope that we will have refined a well put together curriculum for the English language education for Malaysia, from preschool to tertiary, and where it's very clearly spelled out what are the competencies that our students should gain, should attain, should acquire at each level. And it will be a very systematic curriculum, which is not, putting down education or learning goals that are, beyond our reach, like before. But we hope that the curriculum or the validated curriculum will be something that can be used for the next 10 years at least, where we would have already recognized the needs and also the future possibilities of where the competencies are concerned. So again, I'd like to reiterate that this is where we are heading with the CEFR-M. Yeah, it is not a new curriculum. All right, this is not another curriculum. There is no addition, but it is just a confirmation, yeah, and validated version of the one that we are now implementing. That's already trial tested to our needs. Yeah, so hopefully we'll get that by the end of this this whole journey.
Yeah, thanks for I think there have been concerns even in recent times about the fact that we are adopting a European framework and drawing on nationally aligned textbooks, and it looks like we're being recolonized all over again.
Yes. Yeah.
What you highlight is that we are drawing on, we're taking what works for us from the framework,
yes,
and we're making it our own.
Yes.
Yes. Dr. Ramesh, I think that's the beauty of the CFR. You know, it's just a framework. How we use it, how we adopt it, it's up to us, right? And just to also restate about the curriculum, we have to understand that for the secondary cycle, okay, we've just completed one full cycle of the CFR-aligned secondary curriculum. So this year will be our first group of students sitting for the CFR-aligned SPM paper. But we've not completed our primary cycle. Okay, our primary cycle, our year 6 students who come in at the end of March will be the year 6 group. So by March 2023, we would have completed the primary cycle.
Correct.
Okay, but we've not completed one full cycle from primary 1 to form 5. Yeah. So that's also something else we have to take into consideration.
That's another 5 years down the line, right?
Yes, correct.
Yes.
Yeah. So these are things we need to take into consideration when we are looking at the curriculum. At the moment, we are happy with the CFR-aligned curriculum because there's still work to be done. Due to the 2 years of the pandemic, you know, we couldn't go down into the classrooms to have a look how teachers are coping. So we do need that time to support our teachers to sort of like get back into the momentum of the CFR-aligned curriculum. Yes, it's been done online, you know, through our PDPR. But I think actually going down and helping our teachers and looking at, okay, what else needs to be done? That process needs to happen in this journey still.
Right. Thank you. In a minute or two, because we have pretty much come to the end of this sharing session. In a minute or two, Prof. Hazita as well as Puan Sarina, we're speaking to teachers who are listening into this sharing session today. What would your parting message be to them? You know, how do they ensure? And let's face it, we've invested so much time and resources into aligning the curriculum to the CFR. It's got to work. It's got to, you know, result in some positive changes. We want our students to meet the aspirational targets. We want to talk about proficiency in tangible terms, and this all has to come you know, together. And of course, the central actors in this whole process are the teachers. So, what's your parting message to our teachers? Start with you, Prof.
Right. Thank you. Yeah, I think we can't deny the fact that, you know, the hand that rocks the cradle is crucial here. So I put the to the teachers, yeah, the success of this whole exercise, the curriculum, the assessment, the teaching itself is very much upon the teachers. themselves, because basically you are the frontliners, with regards to how you interpret all this the whole curriculum, how you interpret how to do assessment, is very much in the teacher's hand. So that's why I like to reiterate that ensuring that you are updated, ensuring that you are confident with your knowledge as a teacher, with your with the proficiency aspect and all that is very much on the shoulders of the teacher. But know this, there is a very supportive environment which is out there to facilitate these needs. And it's important for us, for example, the group of people who are the group of consortium that's looking out for this, like the ELSQC, ELTC, the BPK, and so forth. It is important for us to know that those needs, so that we can put in place a system or programs that will ensure assistance for that facilitation. And it's also it's also vital to remember that the students should be provided with exposure as much as possible. So it's again, just now I think it has been mentioned, not only by Puan Sarina but also Dr. Ramesh, the fact that teachers should be sharing. Right? There should be a platform of sharing across the board. And the beauty of the curriculum now is that we know, as Puan Sarina pointed out, that if you're talking about A2 students, across the board, everybody knows what an A2 is all about. What is lacking? They should be let's say they should be A2, but they're still at A1. What do I do? So the sharing is simpler actually in terms of successful materials that have been used and so forth. So I like to encourage actually through the SSICs, perhaps the PPDs. This is where, because it has to be at that level, the level that is closer to the teachers themselves, to coordinate this kind of sharing, platforms of sharing that can be coordinated by the PPDs, for example, and facilitated by the SSICs, so that they can hear success stories, even share unsuccessful stories that can be solved together. This community of teachers talking to each other, I think, needs to be encouraged and developed, but at the level of the PPDs especially, even maybe nearby schools or some kind of networking. And also, I think in relation to beyond schools, beyond the classroom, I think all stakeholders, the societies, Malaysian society, all stakeholders must be responsible and be focused on preparing our children for these challenges of the 21st century with the onset of 4IR and things like that, and also the globalized world. Because I feel it would be a tragedy if we find our Malaysian children falling behind other neighboring countries, where English is not even their second language. And if we fall behind them, it will be very sad because our children won't be able to partake in global conversations, as global citizens. So I do hope that with this change in curriculum, with our efforts, the 10-year plan, everybody concerned, especially the teachers, will. It'll be a long journey. It'll be a tough journey, but it has to be a journey that everybody believes in.
Thank you. And Puan Sarina?
Okay, I think we put a lot of hope on our teachers. My message to our teachers is that keep doing what you're doing. Embrace the CFR. Most importantly, upgrade yourselves. Your own proficiency, that will make you marketable, right? Those of you who enjoy the English language, right? Imagine if a child is sitting and watching a show and everybody laughs and they didn't, because they didn't catch what it meant due to the lack of proficiency, right? Now that is sad, okay? how wonderful it would be if the child could enjoy the English language as how we appreciate it, right? Knowing the innuendos, knowing the banters, right? These are the beauties of the language. So basically enjoy the language, share it with your children, share it with other teachers. What Prof said about in terms of support, I think there's a lot of support out there. Don't wait for it to be offered to you. Ask for it. You have your teachers around your area. You have master trainers in your districts. You have your SIC Plus, as Prof said. You have us at the ministry. Okay, I'm sure you know some officers either in ELTC, in BBK. Contact us. Let us know how we can help you. Right? So I think if we all work together, we can make this happen.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think that's an excellent message to end this sharing session with. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the end of this sharing session. I'd like to, of course, record my appreciation. It's always a treat to speak to Prof. Hazita and Puan Sarina on issues related to English language education. Thank you so much for participating in this sharing session. And we wish you all the very best with your with this journey that we are on together. As we try to improve the quality of English language education in Malaysia. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ramesh.
Thank you,
everyone.
Thank you, Prof.
All right. Thank you, Sarina.